For a lot of my life, I haven't liked my weight. And I know a lot of people here who had trauma when they were kids have struggled with it too, because we now know that a history of childhood trauma is very closely correlated with being overweight, struggling to stick to a healthy way of eating, even though you want to do that with your whole heart. And a history of trauma is linked to serious health problems like diabetes, heart disease, cancer, hypertension, which can all be made worse by being overweight and by overeating. Now, everybody knows it's healthier to slim down, and a lot of us feel pressured to look thin, but this connection between past trauma and struggles with food and weight, I don't feel like this is talked about enough, and I want to talk about it today, because I feel it's important, and because there's something I've found that helps heal that. And I've come to that opinion by reading the research and by following a way of eating that's guided by that research, and that's made a huge difference in my life. Not just by finally giving me a healthy and sustainable way to get into a right-sized body, but I found that it helps me heal the dysregulation that is the main symptom of my childhood PTSD, and it drives all the other symptoms. So I'm going to share some of my story this week in 3 parts, and I want to tell you what the program is. I'm putting a link down below in the description section so you can access the information for yourself and see if you want to give this way of eating a try too. I want to tell you my experience around this issue because I know from working with so many of you that, oh gosh, there's just so many people in our community here, probably a majority, who had trauma as kids, can relate to what I've gone through with food and weight. And the weird way that particular foods set off a cycle, for me, maybe for you, that's a mix of hunger and craving plus dysregulation. It makes it all really hard to manage. And now I'm healing that. And I believe that what helped me might be just as helpful and life-changing for you. So, caveat here, if anything I'm saying about weight or eating or my experience feels wrong for you, just skip the video. This is just for people who are really hoping to hear something about this, all right? If you are resonating with what I'm saying, on the other hand, and you want to hear more, stick with me. This is for people who are actively looking for a way that is doable, supports weight loss, and is flexible about the foods you eat so that you can do what is right for you in terms of the range of foods you eat. So first, I want to share a little bit of my story of weight loss and weight gain, and how that's really been connected to my trauma symptoms, and how my new way of eating, it's called Bright Line Eating, by the way, it's helped me lose weight, it's helped me get re-regulated, and it's helped me be more energetic and focused so that I can step into the life I want to be living. So over the years, I tried dozens of methods to lose weight. Weight Watchers, Whole30, Atkins, Pritikin diet, South Beach diet, fasting, intermittent fasting, vitamin injections, honey and vinegar drinks, protein shakes, pills, illegal drugs, smoking cigarettes. In fact, smoking is probably the only thing I tried that let me stop overeating for any length of time. And yes, it enabled me to eat less in my 20s and maybe early 30s. So I had 10 plus years of being the kind of skinny girl that was important for me. That was my ideal back then. But of course, there are terrible, terrible consequences to smoking, and I was tired of those. So during those years, because of my heavy 2-pack-a-day habit, which was gross, which was a turnoff to other people, which threatened my health. But yeah, I lost like 50 pounds and kept it off and was skinny like a model for a little bit. So I had that experience. I also, had stomach problems. I coughed all the time, and it wasn't worth it. So by my early 30s, I really, really wanted to quit, and it took me many tries. I tell the story of how I eventually quit smoking in another video on this channel. You can search smoking or addiction on my channel to find it. But probably the biggest reason I wanted to quit smoking was, you can't just do it everywhere, and I needed to do it like everywhere all the time. So I was really struggling, and then it made me undateable. By the time I was in my 30s, it had become very unfashionable to smoke, and I was starting to really focus on wanting to get married and have kids and meet somebody really good, and smoking was just incompatible with that vision. So Plus it stopped working, actually. I was gaining weight anyway. So for a while I could eat whatever I wanted, but I started gaining, 10, then 20, 25 pounds. Then I quit, and I make it sound so easy. It really wasn't. It took a long time. But I started running 7 miles a day. That was part of how I quit. And I got the daily practice. I was about 3 years into the daily practice techniques that I teach here, the free writing and meditation techniques, always down in the description section, by the way. So I was about 3 years in when I finally was able to totally stop smoking. And it was May 27th, 1997 was my first day without cigarettes. And I haven't even had a puff of a cigarette since then. And that feels great. But when I quit, as will happen, I gained another 10 pounds, mostly because I just, wanted to keep grazing and putting things in my mouth. The problem wasn't exercise. The problem with the weight gain, it was what I ate. And I always, all my life, have loved to eat sugary, floury foods like chocolate and cookies and toast and crackers and cake and bagels and whatever candy was on the desk of a receptionist at the, office or in the mini bar at a hotel. I never cared about the little bottles of booze. I wanted the M&Ms, and I wanted the donuts in the office, or 2 of them if no one was looking. I got kind of sneaky around it. And when I had kids, there was like this new source of goodies with birthday parties and Halloween bags. And after they'd go to sleep, I'd pilfer their bags, right down to the Halloween dregs. And you know what I'm talking about, the candy corn, those tiny lollipop dummies and chemical flavored taffy that no kids will eat. I would. And then later, menopause. So not fair, right? The habits that kept me a little overweight through my 40s put about 20 more pounds on me in my 50s. And the old things I'd do, like exercising more or skipping breakfast, it wasn't going to cut it anymore. So soon I was carrying a total of, 40 pounds over a healthy BMI, body mass index. And I'm lower than that now, but not yet where I want to be. I'm still on it. Now me, I'm a grazer. I gravitate toward eating things a little here, a little there, all day long. And meals were not very regularly served when I was growing up. The kids in my family, we had 4 kids, and we had to scrounge for food sometimes. And there wasn't always enough to eat. So I learned early to get while the getting is good, get over to 7-Eleven and fill in the rest. If that ended up being grazing all day, that's what I did. So this is all normal for people with CPTSD and who had a rough childhood, and for lots of people. Food and weight issues are normal. It's common, and none of us are alone in knowing that we should change, but it's also normal and common to struggle to change. So I've found what works for me, and one of the big features of what I'm doing is I don't eat sugar or flour. And it was hard at first, and I felt like I was going through withdrawal, and I was grieving, all the good things I love to eat. What if I could never have them again? I'll tell you right now, it's one day at a time. I don't think about never and always, but I know today I'm not going to eat sugar and flour. So before I made this change, now I've done this, I've gone on, I've gone off, I've gone on, I've got off. I've got a month straight right now, all right? And what led up to this month was I was tired, I was craving sugar and flour, I was aching everywhere, just like your joints start hurting. And once I got back on my food plan that feels good, it doesn't feel good at first. I was, it was exhausting. And as my body switched over to getting energy from a more sustainable source than big glucose bursts. But that tiredness passed in a week or 2, and then it started to get really easy to stick to the plan. And yeah, I started to feel really good, and I feel good today. So fewer aches and pains, better sleep, more focus, and weight is coming off easily. I'll tell you some very exciting news here. You can get the full story about this food plan from the person who created it, and her name is Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson. And there's a link below. She's got some very good webinars, and I'm going to be sharing them this week in the link below. Now, one reason I love this plan, I have a history with it, but what really brought me back is some research that came out about a year ago, and Susan Peirce Thompson really helped us understand this. If you're a woman 50 to 80 years old, and I'm in that group, it's notorious, we get thicker in the middle, but there's this legend about how hard it is to lose weight. Here's the secret. If you don't eat sugar and flour, your ability to lose weight and maintain a healthy weight is the same as when you were 30 years old. So you're not stuck like this, but the foods we eat can trigger a phenomenon that causes you to hold the weight. It causes your brain to not be able to stop eating those foods, and there's a way out. So given that it feels so good to eat this way, why would I not just do it every day of my life? So for me, the sugary, floury, buttery foods that make me heavy and tired also they kind of have this little promise that just for a minute, I'm going to get this little tiny break from stress and pushing myself and dysregulation from CPTSD and that frustrated, distracted feeling that so many of us have to, carry around all day, and we're working to heal it. Sometimes it just seemed like if I could eat some chocolate, I could just escape it for a little while. And in a weird way, the zonked out feeling from that kind of food it's a little bit re-regulating. It calms me down, sort of, just like cigarettes used to calm me down for a minute. If you've ever been hooked on sugar or nicotine or something like that, you're always dragging in energy and trying to get a little lift in your energy. But overall, what you're consuming to get your energy up is making you more stressed, more spaced out, more irritable, more emotional, and more tired. And it's hard to explain to people who just eat healthy because that's normal for them and that's what they do and it's not an issue. You can't really explain it. The short-term high is very seductive and addictive, and then it's just totally regrettable. You want to feel calm inside, but what you end up is in torpor. Isn't that a good word? Torpor. And then comes that vague, guilty feeling, or I get it, around, oh, I ate it, what I ate, what I'm going to eat, what I weigh now, what I'm going to weigh, whether people are noticing my body, or what I'm eating. So you want a calm feeling, but really what you get is a dull-headed, dull-eyed, and self-conscious exhaustion that finally knocks you out so that that's how you ultimately get the break from feeling that constant undercurrent of disappointment in yourself. I hated that feeling. And that feeling where it's like, oh God, here we go again, another day where I didn't do the good thing I wanted to do. And that is what to me feels like life passing me by. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. with that thought this is not who I am. What am I doing? So I found what actually works for me, and I found it about 5 years ago. It's called Bright Line Eating. I'm going to connect you. It is in the link below. You can go there now or you can hear me out here. The first time I tried it, I lost 40 pounds in the healthiest possible way in about, 5 months. It was easy, and it changed my life. And here's the caveat. I didn't stick with it. I needed to test my theory that I could lose the weight and then get back to eating what I considered normally. And it kind of worked for a while, partly because all that time I spent doing Bright Line Eating healed a lot of my old habits and that addictive feeling. But to be honest, the old habits did just gradually creep back in. And then there was lockdown, and my company was growing like crazy, crappy childhood fairy. I was racing all the time, trying to keep up with that. And I just kept thinking, I'll just eat the comforting way for now, and then I'll get back on the better way. And it took me a really long time to get back on it, with some false starts, which is totally normal when you're making a big change like that, especially if you have CPTSD. So I'm very happy that I'm on it now, and as I'm taping this, I've just relaxed into it for this month straight. I just haven't even wavered, and all the good benefits are back again. And I took a big risk sharing all this with you because it makes me accountable to you. I don't want to fail in front of everyone. It could happen. But what I really want is for us to build more community within this community of people who are dealing with not only the relationship and the career and the social challenges around CPTSD, but the food and health challenges, right? People who had childhood trauma are at way higher risk than the general population for food and weight problems, for diabetes, for heart disease, strokes, diet-related cancers. So this is much more than just trying to be thin. It's trying to get free of that urge to escape the lives we've been given, and free of that generational curse of addiction and trauma. and full of energy so that we can step into the lives we're meant to live. I want to be all I'm capable of becoming. I know you do too, so I almost never recommend anything, but this week I'm getting up on the rooftops to suggest that if you need a better way to eat, you check out what I'm doing. I like it so much, I've asked to become an affiliate partner. They said yes, and that means that when you watch their free webinars, if you go by the links that I put down there, it helps my channel, which I very much appreciate. So links down in the description section. And later this week, I'll talk more about this food plan and what it can do to get out of brain fog. And I'll see you very soon.